Hello students, welcome to BBA 204 Principles of Management. I am your instructor Mine Doyran. Today I will discuss part 1 of chapter 9, which covers the topic of managerial decision making. To better highlight this topic, I will give some examples from the management of the coronavirus crisis that we're going through. We will also examine different types of decision making. Here is part 1 of chapter 9, which discusses decision making. As you can imagine, decision making is an important component of good management. Every organization grows, succeeds, or fails as a result of decisions made by its managers. Managers are often referred to as decision makers. Good decision making is a vital part of good management. Decisions determine how the organization solves its problems, allocates resources, and accomplishes its objectives. Decision making is not easy in complex world. Then how do managers make their decisions in the real world? This is the key question that we are trying to answer in this lecture. How do managers make their decisions in the real world? Decision making is the process of identifying opportunities and minimizing threats. There are two types of decisions: programmed decisions and non-programmed decisions. So let's look at programmed decisions first. Programmed decisions are routine or repetitive decisions that can be handled by established business rules or procedures. These types of decisions are made in a standardized process. They are decided based on recognized and easily identifiable rules. Once managers formulate decision rules, subordinates and lower-level management can implement the decision. For instance, if you want to take a leave at work, you need to obey the policy on leave rules. There are certain rules and procedures that every employee is supposed to follow if they want to take a leave at work. Employees who take leave according to leave rules granted leave, and those who do not follow the leave rules may not be granted leave. Another example. Take the example of a production department in the workplace. Generally, production department follows a routine that managers order for inventory when the inventory reaches the reorder point. Now let's look at non-programmed decisions. Non-programmed decisions are made in response to situations that are unique, are poorly defined, and largely unstructured. Non-programmed decisions have important consequences for the organization. Again, non-programmed decisions are made in response to situations that are unique, are poorly defined, and largely unstructured. These types of decisions have important consequences for the organization. Many non-programmed decisions involve strategic planning because uncertainty is great and decisions are very complex. In these types of situations, the problems are non-recurring or exceptional in nature, like the crisis that we're going through. The coronavirus crisis is a non-recurring or exceptional crisis in nature. We have never seen a crisis like this before since World War II. Since these types of problems have not occurred before, they require extensive brainstorming. In non-programmed decisions, managers use skills and subjective judgment to solve the problems through scientific analysis and logical reasoning. For instance, the management of corona crisis is a perfect example of non-programmed decisions. Look at the problems that the New York State governor and New Jersey governor or Connecticut governors, all tri-state governors, they are trying to deal with. They are dealing with very unique, complex problems that have never occurred before. These problems are quality controls, face masks, ventilators, social distancing, stay-at-home orders. They are all supposed to control the spread of disease. If, despite all this, infection rate is going up or increasing, it requires immediate decision making, and such decisions are non-programmed decisions. The decisions that we have to make during this crisis are non-programmed decisions because we have never made those decisions before. These types of decisions are unstructured, they have important consequences, and they require extensive brainstorming through scientific analysis and logical reasoning. Every business decision faces certainty, uncertainty, and risk. Certainty means that all the information that the decision maker needs is fully available. However, few decisions are certain or available in the real world. Most decisions contain some uncertainty. Uncertainty means that managers know which goals they wish to achieve, but information about alternatives and future events is incomplete. So when the managers make decisions under uncertain situations, they know which goals to achieve. For instance, during the coronavirus crisis, we all know that we need to reduce the infection rate. We all know that we need to reduce the death rate. We all know that we have to find a cure or the vaccine. But the information about alternatives and future events is incomplete. Risk. Risk is the possibility that future outcomes associated with an alternative are subject to chance or failure. Risk is the possibility that future outcomes associated with an alternative are subject to chance or failure. There are certain versus less certain decision making. A more realistic example might be the way people invest money. A risk-averse investor might tend to put their money into safe investments, such as government bonds and bank deposits, right? A risk-averse investor would like to put their money into safe investments, such as government bonds and bank deposits, as opposed to more volatile investments, such as stocks and funds. Even though the stock market is likely to provide a significantly higher return over time, the investor might prefer the safe investment in which the return is known, instead of the less predictable stock market in which the return is unknown or not known very well. Here are the conditions that affect the possibility of decision failure, as shown in figure 9.1. And let's talk a little bit about ambiguity and conflict and how these aspects of decision making, ambiguity and conflict, how these aspects of decision making affect our decisions as managers. Every business decision also faces ambiguity. When situations are ambiguous, there is no right or wrong answer. Right? The goals and the problem are unclear, but there is no right or wrong answer to the solution of the problem. These type of situations are open to more than one interpretation. Think about a question that you may be asked during the job interview. Describe an ambiguous situation that you organized, resolved, or executed recently in your workplace. Assume that you want to execute a marketing strategy. Let's assume that you are facing an ambiguous situation which is complex and not easy to solve. Then how are you going to execute your marketing strategy as a manager? You might give an answer something like this. We needed to execute a marketing campaign and wanted to isolate it to one of our customer segments. We didn't have the budget to cover accommodations for all 3 levels of customers. Again, this was a very ambiguous situation, you can say, because we did not have the budget and the information to cover accommodations for all 3 levels of customers. We have 3 levels of customers, which is top, mid, and low levels. However, we also don't have enough data to determine which customer level would be most effective to target. Again, this is an ambiguous situation that we're trying to deal with, since all 3 levels could be equally important to target. But the goals and the problem are unclear because we do not have all the information we need to target the customer segments. The solution, for instance, to your marketing strategy might be sending out more customer surveys to see if we can increase the rate of participation.